What's happening? My name is Steve Peterson, and today we are in the garage. We're going to do a quick project. Well, maybe not a quick project. It's actually quite a few hours long, but it's a simple project. It's something that I like doing, and that is painting my calipers. This is my 2015 Golf Sportwagen. This is my daily driven vehicle. Currently, it just has stock calipers on it and stock pads and rotors. And I saw that my pads were due for replacement. My rotors could be cut, but I'm just going to replace them. So it's basically it's time for a brake job, full all around, front and rear. The rears are definitely in better shape, but I thought it would be a good time while I'm doing brakes to paint my calipers. And when I say paint my calipers, I mean using a product that I am super familiar with. I've used for a long time, G2 caliper paint. This is a brush-on coating. You put it on in coats. It's a really kind of a watery based type paint until it hardens, and it hardens into a surface that's basically like powder coat. So it's like powder coating your calipers and caliper brackets without taking them off the car completely and disassembling them for powder coat. I like this product. I've used it quite a bit on my other car. So here's my, wait a minute, let me get a light. Here is the Veloster outside here. So I did these calipers about 7 years ago. You can see how good they look. They are white. They are a little dirty right now, but you know, they clean right up. Every time I power wash them, they clean right up. I have also on this car done my alternator as well as my transmission case. It's kind of hard to see, but there's my, let me see if I can get it to focus here. You can see my trans case in there. Last winter I had my transmission out, so while I had the trans out, I used the whole kit of the G2 caliper paint on the transmission, and it turned out absolutely fantastic. What we have here is my 15 Golf, my Sportwagen, and I have all four wheels up in the air. I have removed the calipers. I disassembled the caliper brackets from the calipers. You don't have to completely remove them off the car. I have used this product. I've used this product a few times with the calipers and stuff still on the car. I find that you get a way better detail of a job taking everything apart and disassembling. You can also clean everything a lot better. So they give you a can of brake clean in the kit. I guess I could open the kit, and show everybody what's in it. This is yellow. I'm going to be doing my calipers on the Sportwagen in yellow. It's a silver, reflex silver paint job. I'm going to do the calipers in yellow, and I plan on doing my wheels. These are my winter wheels. I plan on doing my winter wheels in like a dark gunmetal silver instead of this light silver. So I thought that the yellow would contrast really well with the charcoal gray, and then they'll also look really good with the GTI wheels that I have for summer. So these are the machine face finish with the gloss black pockets. I'm a huge fan of those style of wheels from the GTI, the previous gen GTIs. So I got those on Facebook Marketplace. I may have those refinished. There's a couple of them that got some scratches and such eventually, but for now, okay. So in the kit, G2 gives you a can of brake clean. Ooh, orange scented. That's nice. I never knew that you could get orange scented brake caliper or brake clean. This is a packet of the activator, I believe. Yeah, I'm not going to dump this out, but there's a little jar. It's really hard to see. There's a little blue jar of activator. They give you some stir sticks and a paintbrush or two, some rubber gloves, stuff like that in here. The activator is like this little blue jar of stuff that you dump into the can of paint here. And I know you're probably thinking, wow, that's a little bitty can of paint, but I assure you there is enough paint in here. It goes a long way. It's kind of a very watery type paint. So, you know, you do as many coats as you can get done basically before the paint completely hardens or before you run out. I try to do nice and even coats. I try to get probably 2-3 laps around the car, and then I go in really with like a nice touch up as a final product. They make this product in a whole bunch of different colors. You can also get custom colors requested based off of paint code, I believe. I've never actually done the custom color option, but I have done white, I've done blue, I've done red, and again on my Sportwagen here, we're going to do the yellow. You can see here right on the lid, there's a little bit of yellow paint on there, so you can see how yellow that's going to be. I think it's going to look really good. Basically, the process is to get your vehicle up on jack stands. I happen to have 4 jack stands, so we were able to basically put the car completely up in the air and take all 4 wheels off at the same time, and then take all 4 calipers off of the brackets and take all 4 brackets off of the vehicle. Again, I do this to make cleaning easier, and you can really get into all the nooks and crannies. And again, plus I'm doing a brake job. When this is all said and done, I'm going to be putting new rotors and ceramic pads on. I have drilled and slotted rotors and such to go in the car. So with all that being said, we're going to dive in here. I'm not going to go crazy with the step-by-step. It's pretty self-explanatory. Again, it's just like a brush on paint. You dump the activator in, you stir it, mix it really well, and start painting. So we're going to do some cleaning. All the calipers clean. Okay, and we're back here for another tip before I get into the painting process. Now, a couple things. You don't want to dive into painting until you're like ready. Like everything needs to be clean and set up before you start painting, because once you put the activator into the paint, you're on a time clock to get this job done. So let me get this activator out. Okay, so here's the activator. Boom, there it is. You dump the entire bottle. You can see it's liquid in there. You dump this entire vial into your can, and you mix it up really good, and now the time clock starts. You can't set this paint down and like wait long periods of time in between doing this project, because you only have a certain amount of time before this product hardens up, and once it hardens up, you can't do anything with it. So you want to get yourself all set up so that once you put that activator in, you can do an entire coat. Boom, 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 and do laps around the car. As you get through, each caliper, by the time you get all the way through all 4 and get back to your first caliper that you started with, that one's going to be like dry after your first coat especially. So you're going to basically do like 1 lap, 2 laps, and like after your second lap, that last third coat, maybe if you really, depending on how thick you put it on, you might get into 4 coats. I try to get as many coats as I can in. If I end up with an odd amount of paint, I just always try to do probably my fronts that extra coat, because your front calipers are much bigger on most cars. So like there's my front caliper. It's huge. It's a big, pretty big size caliper. While I'm down in here, I want to show you one other thing. So you'll see I have one of these little S hooks. Actually, hold on, I have a pocket full of, nope, I don't have a pocket full of them. I left them downstairs. Here, tip number 2, get yourself a pack of these. They're S hooks. They're like cheapo little S hooks. I got them on Amazon for like super couple dollars cheap. I don't remember exactly, but they've been very handy. You can do things like this. Boom, you can hook it on your spring and then hook your caliper onto that. And then I also have this other one here so that I can kind of maneuver this around, because once I start painting, I'm not going to be able to like touch the caliper to like flip it or turn it and things like that. So again, I'm just getting myself set up here so that I can just run through and do laps while painting. Again, these hooks were like dirt cheap, and they come in handy whenever I do brake jobs and things like that. They just come in handy so that you're not like hanging you don't wanna hang your caliper from your hose and wreck your hose. On some cars, the hoses are kind of in rough shape, and you start bending them around, and they start leaking right here where the rubber meets the fitting. So you don't want that to happen. We are going to start cleaning with the brake clean. I have grabbed one of my extra special custom wire brushes. Basically, I shaved it all down so I can like fit it into like tight areas. I got rid of as much plastic as I possibly could on it. This works really nice for scrubbing, scrubbing your surfaces and scrubbing your surfaces, as you're spraying with the brake clean. Again, we're not touching the rotors. I have brand new drilled and slotted rotors and pads to go on the car. What you're seeing here is a spacer. This is what was this? I think a 20 millimeter spacer. I did get longer wheel studs, and I put these spacers on to give me more of a kind of a flush look with the factory wheels GTI wheels that I have on the car. The 20 in the rear, and I don't know, I think it was a 15 in the front. Yeah, 15 millimeter in the front. Boom. These are just like a universal wheel spacer, 5x100 or 5x112. All aluminum, hub centric. So like when they're on there, they're hub centric. They line up nicely. You do need longer studs to run wheel spacers like this safely. So I've got my wire brush, and again, I focus most on the areas that you're going to see when the caliper is installed again. And most of it is going to be this surface here, a little bit down in here and things. So really what you're trying to do is just like get a lot of the surface like scuffed and clean. Okay, you're not going to get it like perfect. You can dry scrub, and while you're dry scrubbing, you can see that there's dust coming off of these calipers. That's really what you're trying to do. Is you can already see that I've kind of cleaned that up. You're trying to get rid of any grease or oils or anything like that are on this aluminum, and just kind of cleaning some of the oxidation. That's what I'm trying to say. There you go. You're just trying to clean some of that off of the aluminum. The brake cleaner does help quite a bit. You can see that spot there. We're just gonna boop, 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 and then look at it. It's like making that, whatever that is, run, and we can just kind of scrub it away. There we go. See, now again, you can see how handy this hook is, because I can do this while holding my phone, and I can get in all the nooks and crannies and really clean up the caliper well. I find that taking this step really gives you a nice end result. It kind of ensures that the paint adheres nicely to the calipers. Now, if you've got, see here, look at, like, that's what I'm talking about, having it hanging there from the hook. If that would have just fell off of there while it was hanging on the hose, it would have totally kinked and possibly broke a hose. So that's what's really nice about this. I can hook this on here and just kind of move it around, things like that. Okay, so again, I really focus on the spots that you can see. When we go to paint, I'll show you more what I mean. Like, I'm not going to paint every square inch of the caliper, because you're not going to see every square inch of it. There may be some nooks and crannies that I won't even worry about, because you're not going to see them, and it would involve me like completely taking the brake hose off and taking the calipers off the vehicle, and I don't really want to go through bleeding brakes and all that stuff. So we're just going to do this way on the car. Again, you don't even have to do it this way. I've done this project where I've left the caliper brackets and the calipers on the car, and I've cleaned them as well as I could without removing anything. And they've turned out really good. I haven't had any issues. That was one of my older cars, one of my older dailies, driven vehicles that I did that to, and it was never a problem. So just kind of blast through the cleaning process here. When we come back, we will be painting. Okay, we are ready to start painting. Again, this is G2 caliper paint, and this is yellow. And inside the kit, you get the little can of paint, the activator, some paint brushes, a popsicle stick for stirring, some rubber gloves, and they do give you a couple stickers, which is kind of cool. A couple G2 caliper stickers, pretty neat there. And then, importantly, the instructions. Now, it is very important that you read them. If you don't read them, you're probably going to mess this up. So it's not just like dump and go. You need to pay attention to how many coats you're doing, the thickness of the coats, things like that. Okay, read the directions. I'm not going to read them for you. Make sure you read them. Here we go. Okay, get the can of paint open. Now, I have all of the caliper brackets here. I have all of the calipers still attached to the car, so that I can show everybody exactly what I'm doing and what these coats look like. I'm going to keep the camera over here on the brackets, and then I'll casually run through on the calipers once we start painting on those. Here are, again, all 4 brackets. They've been cleaned. I haven't touched them all up with my fingers and grease and things like that. Once we start painting, I will be using the rubber gloves. If you get this paint on your fingers and it dries and hardens and cures, it's a pain in the butt to scrub off. So I recommend wearing gloves. You don't want to get this paint on any of your clothes or anything like that. Again, it's a pain in the butt to get off once it cures. So gloves are on for this process. They give you 3 different size paint brushes, which is kind of nice, so you can kind of get into different nooks and crannies and stuff. I find that I like the medium-sized brush when it comes to the more detailed work, but the large brush works nicely on larger calipers. So it's kind of up to you. We're going to get them all out here. Okay. Popsicle stick is for stirring once we get the activator in there. And then I just have a small screwdriver as well, so that I can get the lid off once we are ready to open this can here. Okay, let me get the box out of the way. And again, this is G2 caliper paint in the yellow color. Okay, there it is. There's the yellow. Okay, so what I want to do is get one of the paint brushes here, and I like to get some of this paint off the lid so it doesn't drip, because there's a few drips of paint here on this lid, and a little bit of this paint goes a long way with coverage. Okay, you'll see once I start painting what I'm talking about. Okay, so we get the activator here. Remove up on wheels, clean, mask, application, pour the entire jar. Okay, so again, pour the entire jar of reactor into the caliper paint, mix thoroughly with the stir stick. Let it react for about 5 minutes, and then we're going to stir again, and then we're going to apply. So I'm going to dump this in and start a timer, and then I'll be back when we are ready to start applying. Okay, we're about 4.5 minutes. I want to make note that it said to stir one more time before we start painting. So I've got about 30 seconds to talk here before I stir and start painting. In the application or directions here, it does say that you have 2 hours of curing time. So you need to wait about 15 minutes in between coats. It takes about 15 minutes or 20 minutes to get through painting all 4 calipers and brackets. So like I said, you do laps as you get around. I usually get through 2 coats easily. My second coat definitely goes on much thicker. I have already started kind of a very light thin coat here with some excess stuff that I had on a paintbrush. But again, we're going to blast through the break brackets here and then do the calipers, focusing again mainly on the areas that you see specifically once these are bolted on the vehicle. So like surface like here, I'm not going to worry about that surface because these surfaces are back behind the rotor and everything back inside here. So really it's just the faces of the brackets and like the faces and rounded edges that you see on the calipers that I focus on. Okay, so I'm going to stir here and start painting. Here we go. I also wanted to say, when I add the activator in initially, you have to immediately stir it, because that activator hardens up inside this paint like quick as hell. And if you don't mix it up, you are going to waste a ton of paint, because it's going to harden up at the bottom of the can, and you're not going to be able to mix it and stir it. So make sure you have your stir stick ready. I've made that mistake before, and it made it a challenge to use the paint correctly. I get as much as I can off the popsicle stick. Again, a little bit of this paint goes a long way, so I try to keep as much as I can from dripping places and things like that. You just need a little bit on the brush. We're going to get just a little bit here on the brush, and we're going to start painting here. So there we go. You can see how much better the color covers now that it's activated correctly. We're just going to paint over this previous yellow that I started over here before it was activated correctly. Again, make sure you get in all the nooks and crannies that you see. If you miss a spot, you'll be able to catch it on the second coat, but you really want to make sure that you're two-coating everything that you're going to see specifically. I will say these brushes kind of suck. The brushes kind of bristles fall out of the brush. If you have better paint brushes, I recommend maybe using those. I'm not a fan of their brushes, but you can make them work as long as you're not like too aggressive with them. Again, you really just dabbing paint on and kind of pushing it around. It's a pretty liquidy type paint. Here we go. Get a little bit more light on the subject with my headband light. There we go. Okay. Now again, you want to do this quickly but evenly. Make sure you're not having any like nasty runs with the paint. This paint does kind of have a tendency to run a little bit if you put it on too thick. So spread it all out, get it all nice and even, get it in all the areas you can. Make sure you're paying attention to not waste your time and paint on areas that you don't see. I know kind of how much I can get away with here, so just again, looking the coat nice. Don't be afraid to pick the bracket up and move it around. You'll be able to like really get all the areas nicely. Sometimes you'll see little bubbles on the surface. That is the paint reacting to the aluminum. Like I said, this paint hardens and it turns into like a powder coat type coating. It's extremely heat resistant. It's extremely durable. I love it. It's a fantastic product, and it's way easier than having things powder coated in some examples. You know, trying to remove all the calipers off the car and having to re-bleed brakes and like all that is just kind of a pain. You'll see what I'm saying here about a little bit going a long way. You can really spread it out nicely on the big flat surfaces. If you see it pooling in some places, don't be afraid to kind of dabble that away. I try to again keep it as even coats as possible throughout. You'll see if you got it on too thick, it'll kind of pool up, and it's a good idea to just kind of try to spread that out, thin it out. So there we go. There's coat number one basically on the bracket. Again, there's areas that you're not going to see because they're bolted back behind, so I don't worry too much about them. You can see how it's pooling kind of on that corner right there. You know, get rid of those pools because they take extra long to dry. And you don't want to like get too much in the areas where your brake pads slide as well, so make sure that's like not painted in there. If it's uneven, your brake pads will kind of stick. So okay, so I'm going to say that's coat number 1 on this bracket. And let's go to the next bracket here. See, there's some bristles off the paintbrush already there. You can see how much coverage I'm getting with just a little bit of paint. And that's really all we're looking to do for a first coat is get coverage. You know, nice even coat. Let that settle, and then the second coat really goes on nice. Don't take breaks. Don't think that like you can stop in the middle of this project and like go do something else, because you can't. Like, if you don't get these calipers done in at least 2 coats before this paint starts hardening, you've wasted a kit, and the only way to fix it is to buy another kit and do more coats. So again, make sure you're not wasting too much time, but at the same time, make sure you're getting them done nice coats. Again, if you see it kind of like running or getting too thick, thin it out. Make those coats look even. Okay, so that's coat 1 on the brackets. I'm going to do the calipers, and then we'll be back to the brackets for coat 2. We are now ready to do coat number 2 on everything. Now this coat is going to be applied a little more liberally. My paint is definitely getting a little thicker at this point, so it's starting to cure, and we've got about an hour left to get through everything here. So I'm going to kind of move quickly here, but second coat can go on way thicker. Okay, that's coat number 2. Let's hit all the calipers, and then we'll see how much paint's left. We're still doing decent, but it's starting to really thicken up. So let's get through these calipers. Here we go, last and final coat. Not much paint left. You can see it's really getting kind of thick. We're going to blast through these brackets. Just like a final touch up. Specifically the spots that you see, make sure they're nice and coated. And we'll be finished. You can see how each coat definitely gets a better coverage. You know, we don't want to see inconsistency in the color. So I've gone through 3 coats, and for my last final coat, I like to put the caliper back on the bracket and everything back on the car. There's no pads in there, so everything just kind of goes together nicely. And I do this so that I can actually see the orientation of the bracket and the caliper, and kind of go back through and touch up any maybe missed places or missed nooks and such like that. Also, you'll see here along the edge where the paint, let me get this to zoom out a little bit, where the paint kind of like drifts away from the edges. You can kind of come back through once the paint is really thickened up and kind of dabble a little bit on those spots. Here's the front caliper. These turned out really good. When these dry, these are going to look fantastic. So yeah, here again, you can see the consistency of the paint. It's really wet right now. You can see there's a little run right there. That will even out a little bit as this stuff cures. Here's the other side. And then here, this one, I just painted this one. This is the last one. So I'm going to let this set for a few minutes, and then I'm going to come back through and try to touch it up a little bit. I've got a little bit of paint left in here. It's starting to really thicken up. So I'm going to have to do this quick. Really just in about 5 minutes, I'm going to let this dry, and then again come back through and try to touch up just some of these edges here because I'm super picky.